In a land where survival hinges on loyalty, the young are caught in an agonizing dilemma between life and subjugation. The once respected military uniform now carries the stench of despair and exhaustion. Each morning, alarm bells ring as parents grapple with the terrifying reality: protecting their children from mandatory military service has become a desperate war, not for land, but for futures that flicker like a dying flame. Each soldier's outfit once symbolized honor. It promised food, better housing, and advancement within the regime's ranks. But for many, those dreams have twisted into nightmares. As a means of escape, officers, doctors, and bureaucrats have become corrupt cogs in a shadowy operation. Families in dire straits turn to bribery, hoping to buy forged medical exemptions, a practice that has become an alarming norm. A doctor's stamp can buy freedom, with ailments such as tuberculosis or chronic heart disease masquerading as legitimate excuses to evade the iron grip of conscription. Yet, not all families can afford this perilous lottery. For those without funds, desperation leads them down darker paths. Some choose to starve themselves, dropping below regulated height and weight limits, attempting to manipulate the very system designed to ensnare them. Others, in a harrowing twist of fate, seek out tuberculosis patients to infect themselves, a gamble fraught with dire consequences. The most desperate families resort to grave lengths, inflicting self-harm in a chilling bid for survival. Broken limbs engineered through staged accidents become the pathway to exemption. It is a battle fought silently, where the stakes are life itself. Parents pour their last savings into freeing their children from the managerial chains of military service, accumulating debt that binds them to a life of anguish. Yet, once, the North Korean military was a beacon of pride, a pathway to prosperity. Now, it embodies a vacuous existence where dreams shatter beneath the weight of the regime. As pressure mounts, the facade of loyalty begins to crack, revealing the pervasive fear and suffering that lingers in the shadows. But as defections surge, the regime tightens its grip. Fear of exposure grows. Young people are not just fleeing military duty, they are seeking escape from an existence that has turned monstrous. As the walls draw closer, their desperate fight becomes a relentless pursuit for freedom, echoing through the alleys and hearts of a population yearning for change. Once, wearing the uniform of the Korean People's Army was a badge of honor, a gateway to privilege and power. It meant more food, better housing, membership in the Workers' Party, and a chance at political advancement. But today, that uniform has morphed into something else entirely, a symbol of despair and relentless suffering. Military service, once revered as a sacred duty under Kim Jong-un's regime, is now quietly rejected by the very generation it demands loyalty from. This very spring, the Army struggled to fill more than 60% of its reserve forces. Such a staggering shortfall forced Pyongyang to raise a red flag, triggering harsh new measures. Under the Youth Education Guarantee Law, Article 41, those who dodge service and those who assist them face severe punishments. Doctors forging fake exemption certificates, military officials pocketing bribes, parents desperate to save their children, all risk cruel sentences. Some face long prison terms or forced labor camps. In the most extreme cases, the death penalty awaits. The state isn't targeting just the young people running from their fate. It is waging war against an intricate network of bribery woven deep into the system. But as the crackdown tightens, escape becomes more perilous and complex. For those who fail to find the bribe money or can't disable themselves enough to avoid conscription, only one path remains: running away. But this is no simple evasion, it's a total severance from the army, the country, the regime, even identity itself. It means leaving behind everything familiar: home, family, the soil where they were born. This escape is a one-way passage into the unknown, with almost no chance of return. And for most, it begins with a shadow dance with death. In recent years, roughly 34,000 North Koreans have defied this crushing despair to reach South Korea. Yet, this figure is far more than a statistic. It is a raw confession, a crack in the regime's iron grip, proof that even its own children no longer obey. But hidden within this number are countless stories soaked in silence and suffering. What drives someone to take a leap so dangerous, so final? What horrors lie beyond the border for those who dare flee? The answers reveal the fractured soul of a nation where freedom is both a dream and a death sentence. What happens when the world's most secretive state loses its grip on the hearts of its youth? The answer lies just beyond the border, but crossing it could mean everything, or nothing at all. In recent years, a stark revelation has emerged. The journey of over 34,000 North Koreans who fled to South Korea signifies more than mere immigration statistics. It embodies the silent screams of a populace wearied by a regime that is losing its grip. Today's youth confront not only the economic struggles of their parents but also their own dire reality, where military service, once an honor, has transformed into a grim existence. This relentless pressure pushes them toward desperate measures for freedom. As the mid-1990s dawned, a great migration took place during the catastrophic famine known as the Arduous March. People were not just seeking freedom from tyranny, they were running from the specter of starvation. The hunger was so severe that the most basic human instinct took over. Families risked everything for a handful of rice or a meager bowl of soup. Children wandered, clutching empty bowls, while the elderly gazed vacantly, driven by a primal urge to survive. Many attempted to cross the frigid Tumen River or the icy Yalu. Some tragically vanished under the ice, while others were caught by the Chinese patrols, only to be sent back to the hell they fled. Those who returned faced a grim fate, perishing in labor camps or disappearing entirely. By the 2000s, the motivations for escape began to shift. While the hunger lessened, a new crisis emerged: the ideological fatigue of a regime that could no longer sustain its grip on the young. No longer were they merely fleeing starvation, they were escaping despair and oppression. An awakening had occurred among the youth. They glimpsed a world beyond their bleak reality through smuggled South Korean TV shows and illicit Western music. Dreams morphed from soldiering for national glory to sipping coffee in bustling cafes in Seoul. They began to seek not just survival but a life worth living. Today, these motivations intertwined, amplifying their burdens. As they look to the future, they bear the weight of their fathers' hardships and the relentless chain of military service looming over them. The once esteemed military has become a symbol of coerced labor, a forced march toward despair, not honor. In the face of relentless oppression, seeking escape has become a desperate battle for existence, one that risks everything, including the very identity of a generation desperate for freedom. Previously, we saw that for young North Koreans, the army uniform no longer symbolizes honor. Instead, it embodies a crushing burden, the loss of their future. Economic hardships haunt their families, while the allure of freedom, glimpsed through forbidden South Korean dramas, fuels a dangerous desire: escape. But what if the dream you chase could swallow your life whole? Today's military service isn't the proud march of soldiers but a grueling sentence of forced labor. Rather than defending their homeland, young men and women become unpaid workers on generals' private farms, construction sites, and mines. The air inside those camps tastes of dust and despair. Hunger gnaws at their bellies, while relentless illnesses spread unchecked, and brutal officers rule with iron fists. It's not training, it's a merciless fight for survival. Faced with the choice of 10 wasted years or risking everything to run, thousands choose the unknown. Yet, escaping North Korea isn't an epic adventure, it's a perilous nightmare. In the first half of 2025, only 96 people managed to cross into South Korea, a sharp fall from past numbers. Why the drastic drop? Has hope died? No. The walls around North Korea have tightened like molten steel. Under Kim Jong-un's orders, the borders became a deadly trap. Barbed wire coils gleam under harsh floodlights. Watchtowers rise like silent sentinels. Hundreds of guards patrol the frontier, ready to fire without warning on anyone who dares try. The deafening crack of rifle shots haunts the border nights. China, the regime's closest ally, has become a merciless partner in this pursuit. In recent years, Chinese authorities have intensified their hunt for North Koreans hiding within their borders. Those caught are forcibly returned, sentenced to torture or even execution once back home, breaking every law of humanity. Defectors now vanish into China's shadows, trapped in fear for months or even years. They depend on unscrupulous traffickers offering slim chances of survival. After enduring this limbo, they face a grueling odyssey through countries like Laos, Vietnam, and Thailand, trekking thousands of kilometers with only hope to guide them. Each step could be their last. For the few who survive this ordeal and reach a South Korean embassy, a fragile new beginning awaits. But every escape story is etched with scars of loss, betrayal, and the lingering question, was freedom worth the price? What drives someone to risk everything for a sliver of light beyond such darkness? And how much longer can a system built on fear and control maintain its grip on the souls it seeks to crush? In the previous segment, we saw how North Korea's young men, the supposed backbone of the nation, are withdrawing from the system altogether. Either they desert the army or flee the country, leaving behind a gaping hole in the regime's grand facade. Now, picture this, a ticking time bomb hidden beneath the surface of one of the world's most secretive countries. The absence of these young men in the workforce is not just a minor problem, it's a catastrophe that threatens to unravel the entire nation's future. Imagine an army meant to number in the millions slowly fading away, aging and weakened, while the economy shrinks like a dying ember. Without this young force, the very foundations of society begin to crumble. But there is something even deeper eating away at the regime's core, an invisible fracture called the collapse of ideology. For decades, the Sunan ideology was a fortress, holding everything in place. Yet, inside, a new generation, known as the Jang Madong generation, has built a secret world far from official eyes. These young people no longer swallow the state's propaganda. Loyalty, security, and prosperity, once tied to the state, now revolve around family ties and underground markets. They are captivated by the glittering life scene on South Korean dramas smuggled in on tiny drives, a stark contrast to the bleak reality around them. This is not an uprising with guns and slogans. It's far more dangerous, a silent rebellion of the mind. When a regime loses the belief of its youth, even nuclear weapons cannot save it. Could you imagine a nation so locked down yet so fragile inside? Meanwhile, Kim Jong-un faces a harrowing puzzle. He needs a loyal, powerful army to keep rivals at bay and maintain his iron grip. That's why repression tightens like a noose, harsh punishments for deserters, an ever-closer blockade of the borders, and constant displays of military might with missile launches and tanks rolling through Pyongyang squares. Yet, he is painfully aware this might backfire. Crack down too hard, and the hunger to escape will skyrocket. Ease up to win their hearts, and risk losing control completely. What happens when a leader is trapped between a rock and a hard place? Can fear alone hold a nation together when its own youth withdraw into silent rebellion? The answer might be staring the regime right in the face, and it's far more devastating than any parade of perfect soldiers. The grand military parades lighting up Pyongyang's massive squares are nothing but a spectacular illusion, a show designed to hide a yawning emptiness beneath. Behind those flawless ranks of soldiers marching in perfect unison is a generation lost to despair. These young men have gone to extreme lengths to escape the uniform they dread, some crippled themselves on purpose, others risked everything by gambling away their family's life savings, and many dared to cross ice-choked rivers into complete uncertainty. Some even resigned themselves to becoming labor slaves in distant lands. Forget the power of new intercontinental ballistic missiles or the kiloton force of nuclear warheads, the true fate of North Korea is not being decided by the regime's military might. It is unfolding quietly in countless nameless villages and shadowed cities, where thousands of young people are making a choice that could shatter their nation's future. By turning their backs on the path the regime carved out for them, they are unraveling the very future North Korea's rulers tried to build. This is a silent uprising, invisible but far more devastating than any parade or weapon. It is relentless and unstoppable, destined to outshine even the most dazzling missiles paraded down Kim Jong-un's grand boulevards. The country's destiny now lies in their hands, those who refuse to serve, who choose exile, ruin, or slavery over the false promise of loyalty. This hidden war of wills tells a deeper story than any headline. It speaks of dreams crushed, families sacrificed, and a future slipping through a regime's trembling grip. If this glimpse into their silent struggle brings their unheard cries closer to you, then their sacrifice will not have been in vain. The truth of their fight behind the walls is a story the world must never forget. North Korea, what if I told you that in this isolated nation, even the air feels heavy with unyielding rules? Picture a world where each dawn greets millions with the same precise march, the same chants echoing in the air, and unwavering loyalty to a singular figurehead. In this tightly controlled land, the people's first allegiance is to the state and then to its supreme leader. Yet, whispers of change are stirring. For the youth growing up here, the memorized pledges of loyalty have morphed into a suffocating noose, particularly when it comes to military service. Once a revered duty, it now inspires dread, pushing many young souls to seek the most desperate avenues of escape. Behind this quest lies an underground, shadowy industry, meticulously organized despite remaining nameless. It thrives on a single, powerful currency, bribery. Even amidst the regime's iron grip, a network of rampant corruption thrives. This pervasive rot has infiltrated the military, the heart of the regime's ideology, causing it to decay from within. As adolescents approach the critical junction of turning 17, they find themselves facing a harrowing choice, life or death. Their fates hang precariously on the financial capability of their families. Only a few yuan, painstakingly accumulated from clandestine markets or goods smuggled from across the border. In some cases, a handful of dollars sent surreptitiously from South Korea. Families sacrifice everything, homes, livestock, cherished possessions, to protect their children from a future in the military. This isn't merely a fight for land, it's a struggle for an entire generation's future. The system of bribery exists as an integral part, one that the regime attempts to ignore yet can barely contain. As we delve deeper into this chilling reality, consider the extent to which desperation breeds corruption. The only path to security for countless families rests on their ability to navigate this dangerous network. What happens when the cost of freedom exceeds what they can afford? The chilling truth is that not everyone can escape the military clutches or the ever-watchful state. The scene is set, the stakes are insurmountable. What lengths will these young individuals go to protect their dreams? How far will families stretch their resources in hopes of crafting a brighter future? With every choice comes a shadow, and soon, their desperate escapes might lead them to unforeseen horrors lurking just beyond the borders. Are they prepared for what lies ahead? The answers unfold in the perilous journeys that follow. What if I told you that in a place frozen in time, even the air feels stamped with control, where every breath, every move, every heartbeat answers to one authority? Imagine millions rising at dawn, marching in perfect formation, voices unified in practiced slogans. In this land, loyalty isn't a choice, it's a law etched deep into souls. But beneath that rigid order, a storm quietly brews. For the youth of this sealed nation, pledges once worn as badges have tightened into chains, especially when it comes to military service. The duty once honored now casts a shadow of terror, driving many to risk everything for a chance to break free. Behind the scenes, an invisible, dangerous underground market thrives, fueled by a single dark currency, bribery. This silent network is the skeleton key to survival in a place where every step is watched. Corruption seeps deep into the regime's core, poisoning the military, the pulse of its ideology, from the inside out. As young men near 17, their fate hinges not on loyalty but on money, just a few yuan gathered in secret, from smuggled goods or whispers of aid sent from beyond the border. Families pawn their homes, their animals, even memories, trying desperately to save their children from a nightmare disguised as service. This is no longer a battle over land, it's a fight for the very future of a generation caught in a merciless trap. The bribery system has woven itself into every corner, officials, doctors, commanders, all playing their part in a grim game of survival. Fake medical notes, forged illnesses stamped with official seals, have become common currency. Tuberculosis, liver failure, heart disease, labels bought and sold like goods in a market. Those with enough money can buy their way out, those without try desperate stunts, starving themselves to fall below physical requirements, or risking infection in hopes it's enough. And if all else fails, some inflict pain on themselves, broken arms, crushed hands, just to prove unfit. This is no ordinary escape. It's a silent rebellion against a system that demands a generation's sacrifice as payment for a broken promise. Parents bear the weight too, selling their futures or sinking into debt, clutching the hope that their children will be spared. Once, joining the army was a mark of pride, a path to food, shelter, and status. Today, that uniform is a shackle, symbolizing hardship, exhaustion, and despair. This tension is fracturing the regime from within. Recently, reserve forces barely filled 2/3 of their enlistment goals. The government is cracking down hard. Punishments for draft evasion and bribery have become brutal, extending to doctors, officials, and families alike. Death sentences and forced labor loom over those caught in this web. The regime fights to choke off escape routes even as they multiply, an endless game of cat and mouse. When all else fails, the final choice is escape, fleeing not just military service, but the nation itself. Abandoning home, family, identity, a one-way passage into the unknown, with death waiting cold and cruel along the journey. In recent years, tens of thousands have dared this flight, reaching distant lands far from the grip of their homeland. But every number hides untold stories of fear and loss. What began as fleeing famine evolved into fleeing oppression. Hunger was once the enemy, now, it's despair. Smuggled TV shows, forbidden music, glimpses of freedom beyond the borders have fueled dreams no uniform can satisfy. Yet, the barriers grow higher, sealed borders, armed guards, and ruthless crackdowns make escape deadly. Allies have turned hostile, sending those who flee back to torment. Every step forward pulls them deeper into risky alliances with traffickers and smugglers. Only the most fortunate find sanctuary. Meanwhile, another cruel path awaits many, forced labor far from home, stripped of freedom under a foreign sky. This tale is far from over. Behind the silence lies a burning question: how far will a people push to reclaim their lives? And what horrors lie hidden just beyond the walls that cage them? The answers will unfold with every desperate heartbeat racing toward freedom's light, or its shadow. Imagine being trapped in a cage so tight that even the air you breathe feels controlled. This is life for millions in North Korea, where loyalty to the state is a demanded ritual, and military service once seen as honor has transformed into a nightmare many will do anything to avoid. But what happens when fleeing the army isn't freedom, but a different kind of hell? Previously, we saw desperate youths risking everything to cross borders, hidden by human traffickers, embarking on perilous journeys through jungles and mountains, dreaming of a fresh start. Yet, reaching the end of this treacherous path guarantees no safety for many. What if escaping service in one prison only means entering another? Beneath the surface of military evasion lies a darker truth. The regime offers an alternative so cruel it barely deserves the name work. Thousands of North Koreans, especially young men deemed unfit or unwilling to serve, are sent far away to Russia's remote regions to toil. But this is no fair labor exchange. It is modern slavery cloaked as employment. Imagine waking up before dawn, your passport ripped from your hands, watched by agents who shadow your every step. Day after grueling day, you labor skyward of 12 hours, felling trees, digging deep mines, laying bricks under freezing winds or suffocating heat. The little you make doesn't reach your own hands, nearly 90% funnels straight back to the regime's coffers, feeding the insatiable machine of dictatorship, fueling forbidden weapons. What little remains barely supports life itself. This grim reality is a tragic mirror to the regime's core values. It does not see its people as human but as currency to be spent. Where dreams of freedom and escape once flickered, now only the cold chains of servitude await. These men fled a forced labor army only to find themselves caged thousands of miles from home, under harsher masters. What toll does this take on a country? It is not just a matter of harsh justice or brutal control, it is the unraveling of a nation's future. North Korea faces a catastrophe unlike any other. Its population is shrinking, weakened by starved bodies and broken spirits. The young men, who should be the heartbeat of the economy and the backbone of society, are bleeding away either trapped in military labor, fleeing abroad, or lost in slavery overseas. With the labor force draining, the economy stalls. The vast army confronts an aging crisis, losing the very vitality needed to sustain it. The foundation of a once monolithic society is cracking, and the system's collapse is no longer distant, it is here, breathing down the regime's neck. So, what drives a generation to risk everything? Is it hope or pure desperation? How long can a regime hold its grasp when its strongest are its most disobedient? The answer may lie in the silent screams of those who vanish into the night, trading one harsh fate for another, in a struggle not just for freedom, but survival itself. What will be the breaking point? Will the system crush every last thread of resistance, or will those threads weave into an unstoppable force? The story of North Korea is no longer just about a nation behind walls, it is about a people fighting to breathe, to live, and to reclaim their future from the shadows of oppression.